Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about 10 more horror movies that I highly recommend. And with that, let's get to the list.
Maybe Death's not actually coming for our family, because that would be crazy.
Final Destination Bloodlines is a 2025 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Zach Lebowski and Adam Stein. It stars Breck Basinger, Theo Briines, and Richard Harmon. Plagued by a reoccurring violent nightmare, a college student returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them. I had such a good time with this movie. To me, this is the Final Destination that finally got the assignment. It is probably, anyway, in my opinion, the best of the Final Destinations, period. Because it has that campiness, it has the humor, it has the gore, it has fun, likable characters that you care enough about without being so attached that you don't have a good time seeing them slaughtered brutally. I also really like how they handled the lore. They added some new twists and turns and things to the whole lore of the franchise without getting overly convoluted and weird like Saw sometimes does. And when it comes to gore and the Rube Goldberg type of kills that this franchise is so well known for, they did a great job here. There are some really imaginative, creative, very entertaining kills in this movie. It was also pretty emotional but incredible to see Tony Todd really say his goodbye in this movie, because he knew at the very least he wasn't doing another Final Destination, and just everything he said as well as the performance that he gives here is truly special and something I will always be grateful to this franchise for doing. Tony Todd was a true legend and one that'll definitely be missed. But I think if you're a fan of this franchise, you're going to absolutely have a blast with this movie. And Final Destination Bloodlines is currently in theaters, but it's expected to go to VOD on June 17th. Clown in a Cornfield is a 2025 slasher horror movie. Directed by Eli Craig, it's based on the 2020 novel of the same name by Adam Cesar, and stars Katie Douglas, Aaron Abrams, and Kevin Durand. A fading Midwestern town in which Friendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying killer.
Six. Very funny, man.
This is another one that I had a great time with. It's really entertaining. And it surprised me because from the trailer and on the surface, it just seems like it's going to be a comedy slasher type of movie. And it does have humor. It is funny at times. But I also wouldn't classify this as a comedy. It's not a horror comedy. It's much more of a horror movie than it seemed like it was going to be. Because the humor that's thrown into it reminds me more of kind of like a Scream type of movie rather than Tucker and Dale, which is the other horror movie that Eli Craig is known for. And as far as the slasher element, yeah, it's a slasher for the most part. But there are a few twists and turns and things that it does where it's more than just a slasher. I'll put it that way. I don't want to spoil this because it's a fun movie to go into without knowing some of the directions that it takes. I just really loved the way this movie shot. It feels like it's going to be a fantastic Halloween time of year movie. It has a lot of that night scenes and cornfields and just that cozy kind of horror element that I know most of you know what I'm talking about. It just like fits into that Halloween season so well. But don't go into this expecting Friendo the Clown to be the next Terrifier. This movie does get gory. It does have a lot of the slasher stuff, like I said, but it's very much its own thing. And Friendo the Clown is definitely not an Art the Clown, because I know that the trailer makes it look like he's going to be kind of an Art the Clown type that messes with the people before he kills them. And there's a little bit of that, but that is definitely not really the direction that this movie goes. I also thought, as far as a teenager type of slasher movie, the cast did a good job and was more entertaining and interesting than your normal slasher teen fare. I'm also a fan of Kevin Durant's work. He is always so entertaining, and I really like the role that he plays in this. I'm not going to get into it too much, but he does have a substantial role in this, and I love what he does here. I think Clown in a Cornfield is a very entertaining movie that most of you out there are going to have a really good time with. It's currently, at the time of recording this, still in theaters, but it's expected to go to VOD on June 10th. So I think this is definitely one you should keep an eye out for. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. This pretty much wrecked me. It's a lot. There's so many layers to this movie. It's really dark on top of that, this is much more of a slow burn. It really takes its time developing these characters, and a lot of the things that work in it is that dread that just slowly builds up, because for the entire movie you can feel the other foot is going to drop. You just don't know when or how or what exactly is going to happen, but you know something is. I did do a full review of this movie on the channel if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, but I was very impressed with this movie. I just know that it's not going to be for everyone. A lot of people, I think, that were fans of Talk to Me might end up not liking this, and the other could be true as well, because Bring Her Back than in Talk to Me. Talk to Me had a few holes, a few little things here and there that weren't quite, they didn't set quite right with me. But for the most part, I'm not at all saying I'm not a fan of Talk to Me, because I am. That movie was brilliant. But I just think that so I think Bring Her Back is a truly haunting movie that's definitely worth seeing. It is currently in theaters, and I don't have a date at the time of recording this on when it'll be streaming. Candyland is a 2022 horror movie. Written and directed by John Schwab, it stars Owen Campbell, Olivia Liccardi, and Sam Quarton. A seemingly naive and devout young woman finds her way into the underground world of truck stop sex workers. But soon, things take a dark turn.
Repent, or you will be left for the final cleansing.
I just wish that this movie had a different name, because I'm telling you, if it didn't have this name, it would be so much more known. But when you see that name, when you're looking around on streaming services, you're not expecting at all the type of movie that this is, because it is super dark, very dramatic, disturbing, really gets under your skin, talks about and deals with a lot of different issues in a really well done way. For one, the way it's portrayed, because you're basically at a truck stop and the whole entire movie is focused on this group of sex workers, and you could easily make a movie where you don't care about these characters at all. You're just judgmental and these are trash. Who cares if they get killed? Who cares what happens to them? But that's not what they do here at all. They treat them with respect. They treat them like real people, and you grow to really care about them and understand them. And even though you may not agree with what they do or how they carry themselves or whatever, you end up by the end of this movie truly caring about all the different characters in this movie. And so then when bad things start to happen, it really impacts you. You feel it. Like I said, this is a very emotionally dark kind of movie. So don't at all go into this expecting a fun movie by any means, because that's not what this is. This is a slow burn, artsy, dialogue driven, really bleak and uncomfortable horror movie. But I think it's one that definitely gets under your skin and will stick with you long after you've seen it. But if anything I said about this piqued your interest, do yourself a favor and check this one out. And currently, Candyland can be seen over on Tubi for free or a few dollars on demand. Fight or Flight is a 2025 action thriller directed by James Madigan. It stars Josh Hartnett, Charitha Chandran, and Katie Sackhoff. A mercenary takes on a job of tracking down a target on a plane, but ends up having to protect them when they are surrounded by people trying to kill them both.
hired you. You're not even sober.
Getting way closer than I'd like to be.
This movie is so incredibly fun. I don't get why it doesn't have more buzz. I mean, this movie, it's not exactly horror. It lives in that weird space where it's very, very ultra gory, really violent, and all of that. There's a lot of a thriller element to it, but it's also really funny. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a comedy, but there's a lot of humor in this and tons of scenes that, especially if you're a fans of gore, that you're just gonna laugh out loud. But it lives in that world with movies like Boy Kills World and Guns Akimbo, where there's a lot of humor, but it's also ultra violent, super just fun in that exciting, violent way. But I'm not trying to label this as a horror movie, although I do think most of you out there that are fans of the movies I generally recommend would have a great time with this. On top of that, this is one of my favorite performances I've seen from Josh Hartnett in a long time. Like, he is so entertaining as this character. And I wish that there was more buzz around this movie, but I haven't heard anybody talking about it. But I wish that it had more buzz because I would love to see a sequel. I would love to see this become kind of a John Wick type of universe, because even though the ending of this doesn't have kind of a cliffhanger or anything like that, it's set up to where you could easily see this going forward and making sequels to it. It also has this fun buddy cop type of feel about it as well, where Josh Hartnett ends up having to team up with this character in this weird chain of events, and they're just really fun working together. She's this very small Middle Eastern woman, and he's this big American badass, and just the combination of the two of them is so entertaining. It also reminded me of Snakes on a Plane in a lot of ways, because so much violence that's going on, it's all inside of this plane. But it's definitely different than that. It has its own thing, so I'm not trying to say that in any way this is ripping anything else off. Even though it fits into that type of movie world, there's enough here that's unique and fun that it still was definitely worth seeing. If anything, it reminded me a lot of Bullet Train, except for it's not on a train, it takes place in an airplane. But there's a lot of the same type of things that this movie's dealing with. Except for in this movie, it goes way over the top and gets very, very gory. But I think Fight or Flight is an absolute blast, and at the time of recording this, it's available on VOD.
Always more dangerous than that.
The Damned is a 2024 internationally produced folk horror movie. Written and directed by Theodore Paulson, it stars Odessa Young, Joe Cool, and Rory McCann. A 19th century widow has to make an impossible choice when during an especially cruel winter, a foreign ship sinks off the coast of her small Icelandic fishing village.
Poor bastards.
We're not going to help them.
Helping those men will put all of your lives at risk, and I cannot do that.
So I've talked about this a few times over the last couple months because it's one of my favorites of this year. The main reason I'm bringing it up again is because now it's available on Hulu. And up until now, the only way to see it was to rent it, pay a few bucks to rent it on different platforms. But now, as long as you have a Hulu membership, you could check it out over there. But this is a very moody, atmospheric, really, really well done movie that has gotten almost no hype, no publicity, but I really found it disturbing. It has this bleak, very cold, emotionless kind of feel about it. Just the void of the landscape, the vastness of this ice desert, so to speak. The way it's shot and put together just feels overwhelming at times. I'm also a really big fan of folk horror. When it's done right, just the moodiness of it, the way it's telling a new legend and lore, something that I'm not familiar with, that just brings that fear back into me, that creepiness back into me that a lot of other things don't. And this is definitely one of those, because the story and the lore and everything that is built up in this is something I had never heard of prior to seeing this. On top of that, the performance from Odessa Young in this is truly special. Like, really, her performance alone is worth your time. But I think The Damned is a creepy little movie that's absolutely worth seeing over on Hulu.
There's no saving us. So get used to it.
Lucky is a 2020 psychological horror movie. Directed by Natasha Kermani, it stars Bria Grant, Yasmin Al-Bastami, and Dhruv Singh. A suburban woman finds herself stalked by a threatening figure who returns to her house night after night. And when she can't get help from those around her, she is forced to take matters into her own hands.
Ted, I saw someone outside.
Honey, that's the man. He comes every night and tries to kill us.
We're just gonna leave him?
Oh, I'm sure he's already gone.
This is such a unique, really creative, imaginative little movie that I've been praising and talking about for the last 5 years now, I guess. And yet it's frustrating because no one ever talks about it. It's one of those very obscure, under the radar movies that just never has gained any traction. Just no one knows about it. It's plain and simple as that. And so I'm hoping that one of these days, people will start to take notice and check it out and actually take my recommendation for it, because it's a very small movie, but it's really, really well performed. Bria Grant is the main reason to see this. She is an incredible actress that really has never gotten a lot of attention either, which is frustrating because everything she does, she's so committed to. Like, she even produces movies, directs movies now. Like, she's a very talented human. But I don't want to tell you why this movie is so creative and interesting and unique, because that kind of spoils it. It's a lot more fun if you go into this pretty much blind and don't know exactly what is going on here. But it takes some fun twists and turns, gets very weird and creepy, ultimately gets a lot more serious and darker and layered and has a lot to say than it seems like it's gonna be on the front. But ultimately, the way this movie talks about the subject matter that they get into in this is really interesting and profound, and at least got under my skin, and definitely was something I thought about long after this movie was over. But I think if you're a fan of indie, artsy, creative movies, this is one you absolutely should give a look. And at the time of recording this, Lucky is available on Shudder and AMC+.
I just want it all to be over.
A Banquet is a 2021 psychological horror movie. Directed by Ruth Paxton, it stars Sienna Gollery, Jessica Alexander, and Ruby Stokes. The story is about a widowed mother whose husband and father of her daughters dies from self-harm. And when her daughter has what she believes to be a supernatural experience, it results in her refusing to eat.
About a beautiful young woman. She's perfect in every way, except for one thing. She never eats.
This is another one that fits into that same category that Lucky does, where it's a very creepy, very interesting, well done movie, but a micro kind of movie with limited budget resources, no publicity. It's just kind of there, but it's really, really well shot, well directed, well performed. Like, everything about it is what I love in that indie, slow burn horror movie. But like I said, it is a slow burn. It is an artsy kind of movie, and I know that's not for everyone. So don't go into this expecting a lot of excitement, a lot of CGI, like whatever. That's not the type of movie this is at all. It's a movie that lives in that dread, that lives in the psychological torment and anxiety and that wondering of what exactly is going on here. Because for a lot of this movie, you're left in the dark. You don't know exactly what's going on here, but you just got to go along with the ride, the emotional ride that it takes you on. Because ultimately, by the end, where it ends up is the definition of a slow burn, because I think the ending of this is very cool and really interesting. I just found The Banquet to be really captivating and fascinating, and I think it's absolutely worth your time. It's available at the time of recording this on Shudder and on AMC+.
Leave us alone!
Dark Skies is a 2013 sci-fi horror movie. Written and directed by Scott Stewart, it stars Kerry Russell, Josh Hamilton, and J.K. Simmons. A family's peaceful suburban life is rocked by escalating disturbing events, which they come to realize a disturbing, terrifying force is after them. I think out of all the different sci-fi, alien, horror, hybrid movies, I don't mean movies like Alien, I mean movies that are, invasion movies, those smaller kind of movies that are about, evil aliens, that kind of stuff. I think out of all of those, Dark Skies is definitely the scariest. And I think that's because of the way it's handled here. It feels very much like a haunted house movie in a lot of ways. And there's just this different, disturbing, creepy things that continually ramp up and get more and more unnerving and just weird. I also really like how the movie is shot, the way it looks, the atmosphere, the way it all feels is a lot of what I think adds to this discomfort and weird, uncomfortable quality that you feel for the entire movie. I also really like the directions that this takes. It has a lot of twists and turns and definitely keeps you guessing through a big chunk of it. But I think if you're a fan of sci-fi horror movies, and especially alien invasion type of ones, and have never seen Dark Skies, it's definitely worth checking out. And at the time of recording this, it's available over on Plex and on Prime Video.
You having a good night?
Fear Street Prom Queen is a 2025 slasher horror movie, directed by Matt Palmer and based on the novel The Prom Queen from the Fear Street book series. It stars Indiana Fowler, Susanna Sun, and Fina Straza. When the It Girls competing for Prom Queen at Shadyside High School start to disappear, a gutsy outsider discovers she's in for one hell of a prom night.
I wait for you and you come.
Man, I have seen this movie getting so much hate. And I'm not going to call anybody out or point out anybody by name. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. I just don't get the hate. I don't know what it is, because I'm not saying this movie is a game changer by any means. I mean, it's full of tropes. That's kind of the whole point of this movie. It is literally just doing a early 80s type of slasher. That's what all of the Fear Street movies do. Like, they take these different iconic horror movies and basically remake them with a few little twists here and there and just make it into a modern day type of movie. But basically that is what they're doing. And so this does feel like Prom Night. This does feel like I said, all those different 1980s teen slashers. But I was in for the ride. I mean, that's all this movie is. It's just fun. It's not a movie to overthink or pick apart, because if you do, you won't have any fun with it. It's one of those movies that if you enjoy gore and you like the 80s flair and style, and especially a lot of the famous 1980s songs that you know and love, and just roll with it, I think you're going to have a good time. I also really liked the main character in this, played by Indiana Fowler. I thought she did a great job. I liked the character she was playing. I thought she was interesting. There's a lot of different issues of her trying to, decide if she's going to try to be cool and go with that crowd or stay with her, nerdy, creepy crowd. It's that same tropey thing that we see in like Mean Girls or any other, teen movie. But I just thought she did a really good job at this character. Like I said, it was likable. Her best friend as well. I really liked her. I thought she was very funny and fun. But like I said, this is not a game changer. It's just an entertaining little movie that I think, especially if you're a teenager and are new to horror, or if you're like me and you can just appreciate the gore and enjoy the silliness of it and just go for the ride, I think it's a fun movie. It's just not a movie that you can be cynical at all with. Like, you really have to kind of turn your brain off and just enjoy what it's doing. But I think it's a perfect pick for this Saturday night. And Fear Street Prom Queen can be seen over on Netflix right now. So do yourself a favor this weekend. Pick one of the movies off of this list. Grab your popcorn and your candy and enjoy! And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And I'll see you guys next time.